So, hello everyone. Welcome to our study circle session. This is the 10th session of the VP Shintres and Associate Study Circle session. I welcome you all, and I can see a few new faces for this session today. So I would like to also give an introduction or a background as to how this study circle session came about. This study circle session was started in 1985 by Advocate VP Shintre and Advocate Bendre. These sessions were conducted in the men's bar room of the district court premises. Thereafter, carrying the baton forward, Advocate Vaishali Bhagwat and Advocate Pramod Bendre started conducting these sessions. And now, considering that we are in the digital age and we have moved to webinars, we've decided to conduct these study circle sessions through the digital media. And with that, I would request everyone to kindly switch off their videos and put off their audio. If you have any queries, you may put them in the chat box and they will be taken up, those queries will be taken up by the speaker during the course of the session. And with that, I would request my colleague, Shruti Avti, to kindly introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Kunal sir. Good evening, everyone. So we have come up to the 10th study circle session organized by VP Shintre and Associates. So today's topic is an introduction to RERA. RERA, that is Real Estate Regulatory Authority. So this session will provide a practical perspective of RERA along with an understanding of the process of obtaining RERA registration. So our today's speaker is Mr. Kartik Kutmutia, who is a chartered accountant based in Mumbai. He focuses on advising, assisting, representing numerous clients before RERA, income tax and GST authorities. So he has an experience in dealing with the clients engaged in media and entertainment, real estate, manufacturing, as well as service industry. He has been a Big Four alumnus and has exposure in the fields of audit, taxation, and RERA. So I welcome you, sir, on behalf of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti. And with that, Kartik, I would request you to kindly share the PPT and you may proceed with the session.
First of all, I would like to thank Shruti for a great introduction. And I would like to thank Mrs. Vaishali Bhagwat and Advocate Kunal Gokhale for giving me this opportunity to present the session on RERA. It's been great journey for RERA and for me to understand and progress in the country. So with that, I would like to just initiate the PPT presentation for the session today. So. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible, Kartik. You
Okay.
can put it on full screen.
So the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act. Now, the real estate sector was apparently the biggest employment generating sector in our country. It provided employment to a lot of people in India. However, the sector in terms of regulation was quite unorganized. It was practically very difficult for a lot of people to have a complete understanding as to what exactly do they own when they own a property. Now, when I talk about the real estate sector, I'm basing my understanding in the state of Maharashtra, because where we are currently, what I want to put forth is that whenever the real estate sector boomed, the prices, the industry as a whole, it was the epicenter of the construction industry, where I would say people earned a lot, was in Bombay and specifically in the state of Maharashtra. With that brief background, I would like to give this introduction a go ahead, and I would explain as to how the RERA came into picture. So the timeline for RERA specifically, the first time when it was introduced, the bill was passed in the year 2016. and it received the president's assent in March 25, 2016. It was passed in, on March 15, and immediately within the next 10 days, it got the president's assent. That itself implies the urgency of the act to be in place in the country. Then on May 5th, 2017, it came into absolute effect in the state of in India, with the state of Maharashtra as well. Now we also need to understand that whenever the Real Estate Regulation Act came into the picture, what was the important highlight? The highlight was to establish a central legislation to regulate and promote the sector in the country. Again, the focus is on regulating because of the haphazard nature of the erstwhile acts, which was prevalent in every state. Every state used to have their own regulations because of the land laws falling under the state list of the constitution. It was also introduced to address the possible concerns. Now, as we all understand that the flat or buying a property, it's actually investing your whole life savings into a particular product. Because of that, a lot of people used to get very anxious as to deliveries, as to getting the possession, as to getting a clear title to the property. There was a lot of difficulties which a lot of consumers or flat buyers, I would say, had faced. So because of that, the regulation had to come into picture. To take you back further, when this act was introduced, the Minister of Housing and Urban Development had said that the sector creates a lot of employment. The delay in housing for all, the scheme that the government had introduced was housing for all. Under that scheme also, the government was unable to implement a lot of policies because of a lot of policies in the regulation which did not assist or help them in getting the things in place. Even if you see Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and all of that, even if they came out with a lot of schemes, a lot of people were facing a lot of difficulties to own the flats. Even the poor ones or the rich ones, it wouldn't matter. So the government understood this issue, and the minister also, when he was giving a speech in the parliament, he categorically mentioned that people have put in a lot of hard-earned money. So they ought to have the transparency when they are investing their life savings into the industry. Also, the minister wanted to focus on the fact that a lot of things were not categorically explained in the erstwhile acts, even in the state acts. For example, the carpet area definition differed from act to act. People never got a clear idea as to what they are owning, okay, is comparable to what they could have owned in some other project, because the carpet area definition was not defined, and people used to have unrealistic pricing. They would say that this much area is the carpet, where in a sense, the usable area was pretty less. So understanding all of these issues, the minister said that it was very important for them to have a central legislation in place whereby they could regulate the whole industry as a whole. Okay. With that in mind, the RERA came into the picture. Now, RERA needed a few other rules and regulations to enact. Every act needs rules to enact itself in that particular area. So the RERA came into the picture with these 4 set of rules which came into the picture, which had an understanding of the real estate regulatory authority officers and employment as to how the staffing and everybody would get employment under the RERA. Secondly was what are the regulation and development and how the recovery of interest in case of any difficulties or in case of any sort of understanding where flat buyers were made the scapegoat by builders, or if the flat buyers had any sort of difficulties in ownership or anything, then how can they penalize the people who would do wrong? Then the registration of the real estate project. Now, what I want to focus here is that erstwhile under MOFA or under Maharashtra Housing and Regulation Act, everybody came out with that act to regulate, but there was no particular registration which anybody obtained. It was all basically that you need to do these set of have these set of things in place, where they would need an OC, they would need a CC, which is a commencement certificate to construct the building. They would need permissions from the regulatory authorities. Everything was there in place, but there was no sort of permission which they need to take, or no sort of registration certificate they would get in order to start the project. Now, why the registration was important? A lot of builders would never have any sort of, or promoters, I would say, would never have any sort of guidelines as to what they need to abide by to have a particular project in place and to start that particular project. So in order to have that thing in place whereby the government could actually get hold of the builders or the promoters, where they could understand easily as to how the builders or promoters could be got hold of in case of any policies, or in case if they did not abide by the regulations, the registration and development was very essential for them to come out with. Hence, the registration was made mandatory under the RERA. With that, the other thing which the rules which were required was when they had to set up the appellate tribunals or the employers, officers, and appointment in their service conditions as to what criteria the employees need to fulfill to have the registration under to be able to have their appointment under their RERA. With this brief background, I would like to invite everybody's attention to the important sections which are under the RERA. Now, what I want to first give out as an impression is that a lot of people think that RERA is a very consumer-centric or very flat buyer-centric law, where it is majorly affecting the rights and regulations of the buyer. But here I would like to say that yes, it's not wrong to think that it is very consumer-centric or flat buyer-centric, but it is also important to understand that a lot of transparency can also help a lot of promoters and the builders to be able to give out a fair idea about the project and give a good buying decision to the buyer. It gives out a very competitive market. When there is a competition in the market, there is always a need to excel in the thing that you do. So if your project is free of any encumbrances, or if your project is free of any litigations, or if you're in a position to give out a project which is very very clear in terms of title, it gives the buyer a very confident approach to go and invest in your project, whereby it helps the buyer to immediately sign up for your project and not worry about what the competitors would have in place. With that in mind, I would like to bring about certain sections which are very important when it comes to understanding the basics of RERA, which we are focusing today. Section 3 talks about the prior registration of the real estate project. Now, it also essentially means that anybody who wishes to register under RERA, or anybody who is already into the construction area, they need to understand that they cannot advertise the particular project before they take up a registration under RERA. So RERA registration becomes mandatory for all of those who wishes to start the real estate construction, whether it forms a part of your commercial industry, whether it forms part of your residential industry, or whether it forms a part of only a single unit, or whichever way it is, it needs to have a registration. Now, registration has a few criteria or a threshold, I would say, which would be essential to understand when the registrations would become mandatory, which I will explain in the other slides, which will come. Now, Section 4 deals with the application of registration, whereby you need to have a certain procedures in place, where you need a certain background about the promoters, about their experiences, and the details which the project needs to put up on the promoter needs to put up on the website. Section 4 also deals about a few areas where you need to deposit a certain sum, which is 70%, in a separate scheduled bank account, where the funds should be utilized only for the project and for nothing else. I will be explaining this section further down in other slides which come by. Section 11 talks about the functions and duties of the promoters. Now, this is a very important section, where what the promoter needs to give out on the website and exactly how the promoter wishes to bring about the whole project needs to be updated on the website whilst taking up the registration, so that it is easier and visible to every flat buyer to understand the project and understand the nitty-gritties and the intricacies which follow in that project. Section 11 also talks about the society of, the forming of the society when a lot of flats in the apartment or the building is booked, because that is a mandatory thing which every builder needs to understand, that even under MoFA or under Maharashtra Housing Regulation Act, every builder, when they had a particular project in place, need to convey their title and need to convey the particular building in the name of the society, because that's a mandatory thing. A lot of builders a lot of times fail to do that, but that is a mandatory thing which they need to abide by under Section 11 of the RERA Act. The obligations of promoter. The obligations of promoter is a very important section whereby if any penalties are to be levied, they would first have to understand whether they are forming part of the obligation of the promoter or not. For example, the promoter is liable for damages if there is any wrong information, misleading information, or any information which is not pertaining to the project but appear to be pertaining to the project is advertised, publicized, or published anywhere in any form of media. Another important section is section 13, where an undertaking an agreement for sale before taking any sort of advance. Now, this section was always important under MOFA as well as under the Maharashtra Housing Regulation Act, whereby a particular builder would not or could not take up a certain sum other than the booking amount before the agreement for sale was executed. Now, this is very important even under the transfer of property act. A part performance can give you title, but if you need to have complete amount needs to be paid to have a clear title to the project or the flat. So this is also a very important section which gives a lot of leeway to the flat buyer as to the amount that needs to be paid to the builder to have a complete title to the product. Section 14, which talks about the adherence to sanction plans. Now, this section is very important in terms of the fact that a lot of times what happens is when a building needs to get constructed, the builder usually takes the builder usually either owns a particular plot of land or has a joint development agreement with the landowner. And with that in place, he visits the architect's office, gets the plan and everything in place, and then goes to the BMC, gets the approval, gets the IOD, which is the intimation of disapproval, and then starts the project. But a lot of times what happens is midway, there are situations, there are difficulties whereby the plan is sanctioned in a particular way. Say only 10 floors are being sanctioned, but the builder, because either there are a lot of funds in place, the builder constructs 12 floors. Because of that, you need to again approach the authorities, which is the BMC or the PMC, and you need to take their approval for the additional 2 floors which are constructed. Now, a lot of times the builders, they falter on that. They sell the flats and they give the title to the flat buyers. Now, the flat buyers are at a fix because they are not very technically sound to understand if that forms part of the sanction plan or not. So a lot of times the flat buyers are under a jeopardy because after the ownership, a lot of times when litigation happens on these properties by the BMC or the regulatory authority, it becomes very difficult for the flat buyers to have the clear title because the title itself is not with the builder. So RERA has categorically dealt with this particular part, whereby section 14 mandates the builder to adhere to the approved plans and project specifications, which they have explained or showed to the flat buyer at the time of signing the agreement for sale. The promoter also needs to understand that once the proper flat or the building is already transferred to the flat buyer or the society is formed and the conveyance has happened, it does not debar, it does not leeway the builder from any additional responsibilities which come with the building. Now, what I mean by that, what I categorically mean here is the fact that every builder, even after the RERA project has been completed, the conveyance has been given, the OC has been received, the BCC, that is the building completion certificate, has been given, it does not make the builder relax in terms of the building or the project. The builder will still be liable for the next 5 years for any structural defect, any fault in the workmanship, or any difficulty which the society, the flat buyers face with regards to the building. This is very important. The provisions under MOFA was only for 3 years, and that too, it was only for the workmanship and the building. But RERA categorically deals with any difficulties which the flat buyers face for the next 5 years. And that is a very important provision which really safeguards the flat buyers when they invest into a particular property. Section 15 talks about the obligations of the promoter in case of transfer to third party. What does this mean? Specifically, when the promoter realizes or understands the fact that he needs to make certain amendments to the sanction plan, or he needs to make amendments to the building for any reason, for any regulation, or for any difficulty which the builder faces. The builder needs to take the society's NOC, a 2/3 of the society's NOC or the association of allottees or 2/3 of the allottees, whichever the case may be. For example, the societies have not been formed. For example, the association of allottees has not been formed. For example, there are not a lot of allottees at the time when the builder is making differences. For example, there are only 2 allottees at the time when the builder is making amendments. The builder still needs to take the approval of those 2 allottees when they are making any amendments in the sanction plan, because that is a mandatory condition under section 15 of the RERA Act. Coming to section 16. Section 16 talks about the title and the insurance of the building. Now, this is a very important this is a very important provision which I want to highlight. When the Minister for Housing and Urban Development was giving out its speech in the Parliament, the first thing that he was trying to address there was, he said that now, even if there is transparency, what is the sort of relaxation to the buyer when the buyer is going to invest in a particular project or the property? We all know about how Kirloskar went down. We all know how a lot of other builders went down. It was a very big issue. So it was all about the transparency. It was also about the fact that what titles or what particular, how the title is secured with the builder when the society goes in for claiming the conveyance from the builder. I would just like to give an example here. What had happened at one of an instances was that a builder actually had taken a clear title. It had all the permissions and everything in place, but there was a case filed against the builder whereby they had taken the wrong commencement certificate, or the commencement certificate was false. It was taken falsely because the BMC had no record of the commencement certificate. However, the builder still had the record, and the architect had actually got the commencement certificate for the builder, and the commencement certificate was in the name of the builder, in the name of the architect. Now it became a big issue. The issue still lying in the court of law, whereby the builder still needs to prove that the commencement certificate obtained was actually genuine. So a lot of times what happens is, even if you're getting the correct documents from the authorities, it becomes very difficult for the person to understand the fact that the titles are clear, or even if the title is showcased to be clear, what sort of relaxation does the buyer have as to the authenticity of the document that the builder has provided. In this scenario, the ministry, when it came out on that, the minister, when he came up with that speech, he said, we are coming up with a provision whereby the title needs to be insured. This is a very important amendment, my friends, because this gives a lot of relaxation, it gives peace of mind to the home buyer when the title is insured. Everybody takes up LIC, everybody takes up general insurances for every product that they own. But this is also a sort of a product. So this also needs insurance. This needs the insurance of the title so that the conveyance gets clear. Trust me, this will really help in reducing a lot of litigation in the country with regards to the title. Another important provision is section 17, whereby when the title gets transferred on conveyance to the society, when should that happen? Now, every act actually regulates that, and every act has always given up that every builder needs to get the conveyance in place. It should happen within 3 months, 8 months, depending on the project, the situation. Here, I would like to highlight that for section 17, it is really important when the transfer of title should really happen. To be clear here, it should ideally happen within 3 months of obtaining the occupation certificate, or within 1 month of forming of association of allottees, whichever is earlier. Now that is the provision as determined under section 17 of the Real Estate Regulation Act. All right. With that, coming to the last, or not the last, but I would say that one of the most important section is understanding everything in place, understanding the title is okay, understanding the project is fine, understanding the possession is promised to be given. What if there is a situation that the builder, for unreasonable, for difficult circumstances, or for circumstances may be beyond his control, or maybe circumstances where when willfully the builder has not provided the right possession, the builder has not given the correct title to the association of allottees or the allottees. What is the remedy available under the Real Estate Regulation Act? The remedy is given under section 18, whereby if there is any delay, whether willfully or otherwise, on part of the builder, and it comes to the notice of the Real Estate Regulation Authority by either by way of a complaint or an appeal to the tribunal, they are supposed to give a refund of the amount of compensation and, mind you, my friends, interest, if in that situation it is important for the flat buyer to have that interest, because even the flat buyer is having that penalty. The flat buyer is compensated for the default of the buyer, of the builder. That is very important to be understood. Why that is really important? I would give you a practical example of a case law here. What had happened was a particular flat owner had booked a property in a building, and the builder failed to give timely possession to the buyer. Now, the timely possession did not mean the buyer, the flat owner, timely possession does not mean that the builder was not going to give possession to the buyer. It was only that there was a delay in giving the possession to the buyer. Because of the delay that the buyer had to face, the buyer had to face a 21% interest which the bank had loaded on the buyer, because the buyer had obtained a finance for owning the property. It is really important to understand that a lot of us, when we are investing into a real estate sector, even constructors, even builders, even they obtain finance, because it's a huge sum which is involved, and everybody needs to have certain set of leeway. And also from income tax angle, considering I'm a CA, I would also like to mention that a lot of people, even for tax purposes, they take up home loans. So when the home loans are there, and when people are paying penal interest on home loans, you can understand the quantum being in lakhs of rupees. Well, if it is in a metro city like Bombay, Pune, or whether it is in Bangalore or Delhi, the interest component on lakhs of rupees, even on 1 crore, 1% matters, right? So to have that in place, the flat owner had booked the builder, and the builder had said that because there was a delay, it was a genuine reason, we had difficulties, all of that. But the tribunal gave a ruling. It said that you will need to pay up the compensation to the flat buyer if they wish to step out, and you have to also pay interest. Now, interest is also an interesting concept here. The interest which was under MOFA was at 9%. Under RERA, it is capped at SBI lending rate plus 2%. That is a very reasonable rate, whereby a person can actually estimate, in case of any default, even if the builder is liable to be compensated, they need to have that particular percentage in place, so that if they have to manage their finances or understand as to what interest the builder can compensate, that is the maximum which the builder could have compensated in terms of the act. With this basic understanding of the sections, I would like to proceed further in terms of the regulatory update. Now, the regulator.
So, Karthik, we have a question from the audience. Basically, they have asked whether RERA is applicable retrospectively for delayed conveyance, meaning for buildings where construction has started before 2016.
It's a very nice question. I would like to answer that in the affirmative. Yes, RERA is applicable to projects which were ongoing or which had already were there under MOFA, because what happens here is that the concept of RERA was there to assess the flat buyers against any malpractices or difficulties which the flat buyers faced. Okay. Because MOFA had regulations, but they were not as stringent as it came up under RERA. That is why the tribunal also, and the Supreme Court, the Bombay High Court as well, in the larger interest of schemes, they had actually upheld that a lot of sections and provisions of RERA are applicable to projects which were there erstwhile. I would like to quote in this particular scenario, the Bombay High Court have a lot of builders, and I would like to name the builders: the Mudasar Builders and Developers, DB Realty, Swapnil Promoters and Developers, MIG Bandra Realtors, had actually challenged on the constitutional validity of RERA under the act, because they said that you cannot apply it retrospectively. But the Bombay High Court has quashed that. The Bombay High Court has upheld the validity of almost all sections and provisions of RERA that were challenged. So I hope I have cleared that out. Right?
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on with the regulatory update here, the major acts that was prevalent in the state of Maharashtra was the Maharashtra Ownership Flat Act. Okay, and it was introduced in the year 1963. Now you can imagine an act which was so old, and it was still prevalent in the state for so many years. It was prevalent up till 2012, whereby the Maharashtra government realized for the loopholes that were prevalent under MOFA and the difficulties which the flat buyers had faced. You have to understand that when you say MOFA, it covers the Ownership of Flat Act. It specifically talked about units, dwellings, whether commercial, residential, but they were talking about a particular, if I would say char diwar ek chhat is what I would like to put out here. They were talking about a particular unit or a particular dwelling unit, or, the definition was very limited to that. Under RERA, they have defined department, they have defined apartment, and they have really explained that they need to apply it to whether it is a unit, whether it is 2-3 units in multiple floors, all of that which forms part that you buy as part of a real estate, everything will get covered under the Real Estate Regulation Act. Now, MOFA was already in place. Here, I would like to mention that MOFA was repealed by Section 56 of the Maharashtra Housing Regulation and Development Act in 2015. Here also, I would like to highlight that in 2013, the real estate bill was first time discussed in the parliament, which was in the year 2030, which again got discussed in the year 2015, which I mentioned in March. Now, what happened is Maharashtra state was actually way ahead beyond its time. It had realized the loopholes, it had understood the difficulties, it had understood the policies, the problems which had been faced. How do you go about that? The Maharashtra government was smart enough to have thought of this, and they came out with the Maharashtra Regulation and Development Act, whereby a lot of provisions of RERA was actually already in place in the Maharashtra Housing and Development Act. But because eventually the RERA came into the picture at the central level and every state had to take up their own RERA, the RERA came into the picture. All right. With that, RERA was enacted and every state then started adopting RERA, with Maharashtra being the first state to adopt RERA in the year 2017, and it became applicable from the 1st of May 2017. Here, I would also like to mention that the requirement of registration, when this came up, a lot of people were confused as to who will have to take up registration. What if my project was ongoing? What if I was covered under MOFA? What if I had a regulation whereby my rights, my responsibilities, my obligations, the enactment, the agreement, everything was falling under MOFA? Why would I still be covered? But with that, I was actually going to address that query by which came up. I was going to address that here, and I was going to explain the fact that when central legislation comes into the picture, the intention was to protect the home buyers. The builders had a lot of upper hand, I would say, when it came to selling of the units and the buildings. It was very important that they cover the acts which were prevalent before RERA. Why? The interesting thing to note here is the fact that if they cover that, the protection is given to a lot of people, the investments are secured, which in turn helps the government. How does it help the government? It helps the government to regulate it in a way where it would also increase the revenues of the government, because the stamp duties are determined, the carpet areas are defined, things have been more regulated. It brings out a clear picture also in front of the government. I would like to point out here, when the minister was giving his speech there, he said that he had record of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs of the number of people into the construction industry and the number of companies which were defunct. Now, it had records of only companies. Mind you, there are a lot of partnership firms. There are a lot, people form a lot of partnership firms. They form AOPs, they form BOIs. AOPs are association of persons. BOIs are body of individuals. A lot of sector, a lot of people are also into the real estate sector by way of joint development agreements, by way of joint ventures. Now, how the government would get a record of that? Under RERA, because of a central legislation, the government has a clear-cut picture of the number of registrations, the number of tribunal cases. It is very, very, very regulated, and it is very transparent. That is why RERA also helps them. Now, coming to the requirements of registration under RERA, a person needs to register only and only if it satisfies the conditions mentioned under Section 2. Now, Section 2 categorically states when the area, okay, which is proposed to be developed. Mind you, it talks about an area which could be a plot of land, which could be a building which is already in existence, which will also cover redevelopment areas, rehab areas, SRA areas, any area which is being developed which does not exceed 500 square meters, or the number of apartments proposed to be developed do not exceed 8, then you are not required to take up registration under the Real Estate Regulation Act. You're not supposed to take up the registration. Here, I would like to point out that the same provision was there under MOFA and the same provision was there under the Maharashtra Housing Regulation Act, where under the Maharashtra Housing Regulation Act, the limits were 250 square meters and 5 apartments. RERA became 500 square meters and 8 apartments. This also means that what the government is trying to say here is that we want to give leeway for bigger projects to be registered. The government is not interested in smaller projects. Now, when I say project, it also means layout. It means that you can have multiple buildings in a layout. But if it is a layout which has number of buildings, if you're proposing an entire layout, then you need to take up the registration here. A building which forms part, a project. Now, the real estate projects are, it can be probably a building which is being constructed. It could be certain floors in a building which could be constructed. Anybody can take up a registration under RERA when they satisfy these 2 conditions. And mind you, this is an or condition. So you have to satisfy either that condition or this condition. Okay, it is not a conjunction. So you don't have to satisfy 2 conditions to take registration or not take registration. So this is just a highlight which I wanted to give. Further, for the ongoing projects, I have just categorically mentioned here that for the purpose of registration of any ongoing project, there was a scenario where there was a lot of confusion. This was precisely the time after May or around May, where a lot of people had filed PILs, SLPs, which is a special petition or public interest litigation, whereby they had kind of wanting to understand about the regulation, its enactability, how they want to go about this whole process. A lot of builders, a lot of builder associations have filed petitions and cases, but the court, the judiciary was had realized the importance of RERA, and they had always mentioned the fact that because it is consumer centric, we will not allow this, and there is no problem with the constitutional validity, we will go ahead with it. Because people had actually argued cases under section 9, under Article 19(1)(g) and Article 14 of the Constitution. Coming to the process of registration under the MahaRERA. Now, the registration of MahaRERA has to mandatorily be obtained in the online form. As we all know now, the government is going very, they want everything to be online, to be available to everybody at the click of a button. So the registration is mandatory to be done online. It is not a physical registration that you're supposed to have. Registration requires all the details with regards to the project. It needs to have about the layout, the parking, the garden if it is proposed. I would like to mention here that a lot of times people actually don't get their occupation certificate if they have proposed a garden in the project and they have not provided the garden in the project. They do not get the OC. There are a lot of policies. Builder has to comply with the sanction plans and the sanction layout. If they don't do it, it becomes a big problem for everybody. The registration comes with a fee. This is very basic. Recently, the Maharashtra government has reduced the fee for registration. They have reduced this fee so that a lot of people can take the registration easily, and it is not a very burdensome or a difficult process for the builders to invest their funds. They have reduced this fee right now, and it is I think the amount has been reduced. I'm not quite certain on the amount, but it has just been reduced. It just came out in the news. The registration has to be done on the RERA website. The website link has been provided. The registration requires you to comply with the basic details pertaining to the project. I'm going to rush through a bit through the registration process so that it's, we could cover up more slides in the later part of the seminar. It requires details of the promoter. This is very important. A lot of times what happens here is that people exactly don't know who the promoter is, because if it is a private limited company, the directors can come in and go. So it is very important for people to understand who the promoter of the project is. The promoter could be the landowner and the developer. The promoter could also be the builder. The promoter, in the case of joint ventures, in the case of landowners as well, they all need to be registered as promoters. Project information, land FSI details, address of the project, apartment type, what are the apartment, the specifications of the apartment, the total project cost, upload the necessary documents, project professionals. Here I would like to bring to everybody's attention that a lot of times, what happens is people are not aware of the people giving the permissions or giving the certificates to the builder. Erstwhile, what used to happen is under MOFA and under other act which are prevalent in Maharashtra, which is the Maharashtra Housing and Development Act, builders used to actually use the benefit of moving funds from one project to another. Now, this was a big problem. Why was that a big problem? Because the builder would never finish a building because he would have 2 to 3 projects happening simultaneously, and it was becoming very difficult for the flat buyers to have a clear title of the project. Why? Because the OC would not have been received. Everybody had to pay more charges to the government for water, for electricity, for every other detail, for the municipal taxes. It was becoming very difficult for the people. So under RERA, it has been clearly determined that any builder, constructor who wishes to remove funds from the RERA account, they need to have a separate account. They need to remove funds only after the architect, structural engineer, the architect, the structural engineer, as well as the chartered accountant signs and gives their consent. The builder is not allowed to withdraw funds. The bank itself will not give funds without the chartered accountant certificate. This is very important. This is really important for us to understand the fact that the builder cannot move funds more than 70%, because the 70% of the proceeds received by the builder needs to be applied to the project which is being proposed. It cannot move out other than 70%. Also, it is important to understand that it is not just the CA certificate. He also needs to get the chartered engineer as well as the architect certificate, because the CA will certify proportionate to the percentage which has been completed, and that percentage will be derived from the structural engineer and the architect certificate. Basis that the costing will happen, and basis that the amount which is allowed to be withdrawn will be confirmed. I hope I'm very clear why the project professional detail has been incorporated here in the registration process. Further, a lot of times when a flat buyer, when they wish to invest in a project, they are not aware of the litigations which are existing or which may arise during the course of the construction. So the litigation details needs to be uploaded as and when they are updated. Here, I would also like to point out that there is a Maharashtra website updation rules as well, where you will have every builder is mandatorily required to quarterly update the details of the project on the website. To be very practical here, a lot of builders are currently not seriously doing this. A lot of builders are not updating these details on the website because the penalties are not very clearly prescribed for the non-updation of the rules. So as far as I understand, I think the government will notice this policy soon enough, and they will put up a penalty for the non-updation of the, they have a very general penalty. Penalties will be discussed in the future slides. They have a very general penalty here, where if they are not covered under particular scenarios, they get covered under the standard scenario, and the penalties are huge, mind you. This penalties come up to 5% of the project cost. Mind you, it is a very big penalty, which was not the case earlier. If the project is of 10 crore, 5% of 10 crores is a huge sum, which we all need to understand. Also, any activities with regards to the podiums or anything that the builder has been developing, they needs to be updated here. And lastly is the payment, where the withdrawals and everything needs to be mentioned. I will quickly run through the slides of the MahaRERA website, whereby it is very clearly explained as to what all details need to be put in. Firstly is the promoter details as to what sort of organization, as we've already discussed. It can either be an individual or a person other than an individual. It could be a company, it could be a partnership or anything. Organizational details, the PAN number and the organization type. It has to mention the address where the organization is situated. It has to mention the organization contact details and the name of the person responsible of that particular project. A lot of times, every construction industry has a particular project manager who takes care of the entire project, and that person's details because needs to be updated on the website for a simple reason that if anybody needs to approach a person from the organization, they can immediately approach the project person. Any partners, if they are there, they need to be updated. The address of the person who is being registered, all of that is very important, because it is very important to note here that even the photo of the promoter needs to be uploaded so that it becomes easily recognizable for people investing in the project. This is a very important thing here, which I would like to highlight. Past experiences. Now, why the past experiences? Past experience is really important for a lot of people to understand that if the builder is able to complete the erstwhile projects, and if the builder has a good reputation in the market. Basis this, you can always try and figure out as to where the construction was, if it is within your vicinity or within the area where you propose to buy a flat or own a particular property. You can always figure out about the promoter and how the promoter fared in so many years. Currently, this thing used to happen very organically, where we would always ask our real estate agent. Excuse me. We would either ask our agent or we would ask our relatives who have the same builder who have constructed their property. But this time the government, because it was coming out with a lot of transparency here, they had categorically put out this fact that they need to put out the past experience of the promoter if they have, so that it becomes easier for the investor. The project details. Now, this is really important. The project details, which we need to understand that we need to have whether it's an ongoing project. Now, the ongoing project was there also when in the year 2017, when RERA had just come into the picture, which categorically explains the fact that even MOFA or anybody who was already there and who had construction were going on, they can register here, or they need to register here mandatorily. The project name, the type, the proposed date of completion. Now, this is really important. The proposed date of completion is very important, because if the builder says that they need to take up the registration, or if the builder needs to complete the project at a particular date, they really need to understand the fact that if they do not, then immediately the penal provisions get attracted and they are liable to compensate for delayed possession. Also, there is another tab here which talks about the revised proposed date of completion. Now, this revised proposed date of completion is very important. The builder can take an extension if the builder feels, for circumstances beyond the builder's control. If the builder is having a situation like an earthquake, tsunami, or any sort of force majeure sort of difficulties where it's beyond the control of the builder, they can take the extension of the project, they can take up the revised proposed date of completion, and they can amend that. Now, that application has to be done on the RERA website itself, with the same process as registration, and it depends on the RERA authority whether they wish to grant the registration for whether they wish to grant the extension or not. Litigation about the project, then they need to talk about the land details, the plot area. All of these details are usually available when the architect makes the plan of the building. So all of these details, if a lawyer or a chartered accountant is taking up the registration for the project for any of their clients, all of these details are usually coming down from the architect and the structural engineer, and then they can really put up this whole detail on the website. Total building count, because it could be a layout, proposed but not sanctioned building count, because a lot of times the sanction is of 10 floors, but the builder constructs 12 floors. For the 2 floors, it again needs to go to the authority and get the sanctions in place, and all of those details needs to be mentioned. The building name which it proposes to have, the number of plane, number of basement, number of podium, number of stilts which it wishes to have, the apartment types, carpet areas. I'm just rushing through these details because these are very basic, very common details. So they just needs to be filled up. So I'm just giving a holistic idea of this whole of the registration process.
So Karthik, just one question. So when it comes to, I mean, considering there are quite a few details which are required to be given, any particular pain point or any particular detail which maybe, any lawyer while advising his client would perhaps need to keep in mind, as to, when you're filling up these details, are there any places where probably clients could face an issue? And
right, a lot of times what happens is, determining the project cost is a big problem. It's a big hassle, because a lot of time what happens is, when a builder is constructing a rehab project, or if a builder is constructing a redevelopment project, there is also a cost which is with regards to breaking the building, in terms of clearing the debris, breaking the building, putting the things back in place, and then starting the construction and all of that. So determining the cost of project is very essential. They need to understand that all of these costs also gets included as the cost of the project, because that is, again, you will do the project only once the building has been down, and then you're constructing it. So that forms part of the cost of the project. Another thing which people need to keep in mind is that whenever they pay a certain sum to the landowner as part of taking that, they also need to add that cost paid to the landowner as part of the project. So they need to understand that when they are trying to propose a particular project, and when they are trying to determine the cost of the project, because see, what happens a lot of times is that when you visit the architect, they will plan basis what is your intent. How much floors do you wish to build? How much floors do you wish to do? How is the area? How much floors are allowed? Are you going to purchase the additional FSI to construct additionally? Is it how is it going to be like? Also, when a society is going into redevelopment, they also need to understand society when it goes into self redevelopment, it gets additional FSI. So all of these details needs to be out there. So when you're going out for registering a particular project, you have to understand what benefits are there. What are you proposing? How are you going to get a clear title? How do you think the project cost will be? Because these parameters will assist you when you're sitting to fill up this form. Only when you are clear with these certain sections of the detail can you take up the registration easily at one go. Otherwise, you will have to just go back and forth every time you take up that registration. So you have to take that in, keep that in mind before you take up that particular registration. Also, you have to understand under RERA, you cannot sell a parking.
Okay.
Very important. So person cannot sell a parking. If it is an open parking, you cannot sell it. A garage is allowed to be sold, mind you, but a parking is not allowed to be sold. So parking is included in the cost of the apartment that you're selling. So these little details are very important when you're actually going out to take up the registration and determining the project cost. Right?
No.
The number of garages, parkings in numbers, the internal floors and footpaths and water supply, and these additional details, the common areas which are then eventually conveyed to the society also needs to be determined, and what are the proposed part, and when what is the percentage of completion. All of this needs to be determined, which usually the architect determines when he visits the project site. Give you a clear detail. Now this field cost details which I was currently talking about, now this detail is usually determined by the chartered accountant. Okay, and there is a very important role which I want to highlight here of lawyers right now that we are talking to a lot of lawyers on the group. A lot of times the title reports, you need a lawyer to do that. Why? Because that lawyer can easily determine the fact of the title of a particular project with regards to how it is clear, is there any encumbrances and all of that. A lawyer is always having an upper hand when he kind of takes up the either the registration or when he sits up to understand the project details. So a title report by a lawyer is very essential when it comes to RERA. Coming back to the slide here, the cost details, the acquisition cost, the development cost, lease premiums, lease rent, interest cost, when a builder is taking up a financial assistance from a loan or an NBFC, all of that cost also needs to be included. The premium payable, the TDRs. Now TDRs are basically a transfer of development rights whereby a person acquires the development right in order to construct it. Also, a lot of times what builders do is they provide a lot of amenities and hand it over to the BMC or the local authority. For example, they do up like a garden, or they do up a fountain, or they do a beautification process, or they maintain a certain thing. Because of doing all of these things, a lot of builders get development rights or a certain additional benefit in terms of FSI to the builder, and the builder can then utilize it for the construction of the project. So all of those details needs to be mentioned so that a person who's going to go in for the project gets a clear amount of idea. Okay, the development cost, the construction cost. A lot of times builder lobby is only there for the construction. They do not own the land. So if there is any development cost which specifically incurs, because a lot of time there is a JV between the landowner and the builder. So if those JVs are there, then how are the costs determined? If there is a revenue sharing model, if there is an area sharing model, how are they going to determine it? Basis all of that, the registration needs to be understood and taken. This detail talks about any document, the details of documents which need to be uploaded. And mind you, the second part is a copy of the legal title report, which I was mentioning earlier. So this also needs to be uploaded on the website. The details of any encumbrances on the property, details of copy of the layout plan, signed pro forma of the allotment letter and agreement for sale. This is very important, which I want to highlight here. Under MOFA and under RERA, the agreement standards were not very clearly defined. Okay, the agreement for sale was there. They had the model agreements, but every builder always had their own clauses in the flat agreements. It was a big problem when it went into litigation, because a lot of times flat buyers are not very aware of these things, and a lot of times when builders construct properties, they take up the professional cost, they recover the cost of drafting the agreement from the flat buyer. And flat buyer is not having that technical knowledge, would always sign on the agreement and take up that agreement and register the agreement. Now, this was a big problem because litigation, flat buyers always had to face that difficulty. Now, what happened under RERA is they gave a model form of agreement, which everybody has to abide.
Right.
Abide by the model form of agreement under RERA, it means you are violating the provisions, you are liable to be penalized. So you have to understand that you have to adhere to the model form of agreement under RERA. There can always be a few differences in terms of the consideration received and all of that. But again, that consideration received should also not violate the conditions determined under RERA. For example, you cannot take more than 10% when you are booking a property. You can only take up the balance amount after the agreement for sale is signed. You can't take more than that. Now that is very clearly determined by that. You can't violate that, but other than that, everything falls in place. Other details are declaration in Form B. Now, Form B is a chartered accountant certificate when you're taking up the registration in terms of the total project cost and the estimated project cost. Certificate of architect, certificate of architect, certificate of CA, Form 1, Form 5. So CAs are actually required to give a certificate in terms of the fact that they have to determine the project cost for bank withdrawal and also for a yearly audit. Audit is compulsory for every project. Right, that is very important because if the project is happening, so that there is a control on the builder when and how the funds are being utilized, as also for the fact that when they are doing a particular project or when they're constructing a particular project, it is regulated in terms of the finances. Because a lot of times what happens is builder actually stall the construction because they are in dearth of finances. Because there is a quarterly update on the website, and if everything is regulated, it becomes easy for the flat buyer to take up a decision. Okay. Certificate of engineer, commencement certificate. Now, commencement certificate is the process whereby you can't construct a building without the commencement certificate from the authority. You need the commencement certificate, and then only you can take up the construction. In Bombay, usually how it works is there is a plinth CC. First, they give you the commencement certificate for building the plinth. Then they give you the commencement certificate for the floors. Then there is a part OC which is given that you can construct up to 7 floors. Now, this is as per the Bombay High Court ruling. You can construct up to 7 floors. You can get part OC. Once after that is done, then you can take up the further floors, and then you can take a complete OC. This was usually done because there was a lot of problems in terms of debris that needs to be handled and all of that. So the court is like, you first dispose of the debris in the right fashion, and then you can do away with that and you can construct additional floors. Project professional, you have to give out the details of the professional of the project, whether architect, chartered accountant, contractor, and all of those details. Litigation related to the project has already been discussed, that every sort of litigation which happens with regards to the project needs to be updated, and the level at which it is, whether it is at the High Court, Supreme Court, District Court, Civil Court, which at whatever level, criminal court, whichever way it is, it needs to be mentioned here. The activity details talks about what other additional activities other than the construction of the building, what additional activities are to be done. For example, any excavation details, basement details, plinth details, podium details, everything needs to be updated. So only and only when you have a complete idea of the details of the project, only and only then you can take up the registration. So you need to keep all of these things in mind. Withdrawal from the project, like in terms of how a person would want, how the funds of the projects are being utilized, and also the fact that if somebody needs to, withdraw in terms of the project, so what is the amount and everything, has a clear idea, if it is put out on the website. Now, RERA, now that it is there, I would like to highlight what are basically the benefits for the promoters.
So, Karthik, just one point before we move to the benefits to the promoters, can you just tell us as to, whether there is practically compliance by the builders with respect to all the points that you just mentioned, and whether, builders have maybe found a way to, circumvent these. So, practically, have the builders actually started complying with these regulations?
Right. I'll to be very honest here, what's currently happening is, if you see the trend, okay, in the tribunals right now, a lot of people are withdrawing their applications. That's a very unique trend which actually came up. Now, why that came up? The reason behind that is the difficulties that the flat buyers usually face in terms of a real estate project are, currently the scenario has turned, now I'm just speaking a bit offbeat out here. A lot of times a very good reputed builders used to take up the monies in complete in the bank account, which was not the case earlier. Earlier the builders used to demand money haphazardly and the flat buyers had to go because they liked the property. because of that, the builders were in a upper hand. They had a position of dominance there. But now that scenario has changed. Because of RERA, there is a lot of transparency. You cannot remove funds other than 70% for the project. So a lot of builders actually, to be very honest, have started complying with the provisions because RERA is a very stringent provision. To also mention here, projects before RERA are also covered under RERA. So what has happened is there is a lot of cover to the flat buyers. Because of the and if you see, I had actually attended and had a chance to meet Mr. Gautam Chatterjee, who was the pioneer in the MahaRERA, and I happened to speak with him and I asked him. I said, "Sir, you're currently taking up the cases, sir. How do you feel the trend is going towards?" And he gave me a very a good answer. He said, "Karthik, actually the trend is such that a lot of builders who were not following a lot of procedures and processes have actually left the market."
Right.
They realized because they are worried that they will not be able to handle the penal provisions. And to be very honest, a lot of people are giving judgments in favor of the consumers. Because what has happened is people have actually started withdrawing their cases from the consumer forums because they are getting a faster redressal under RERA authorities.
Right, right.
People are actually worried and builders are actually scared that if they don't do it correctly, they are actually going to face the music and they are going to face the wrath of the flat buyers and they will get the interest and compensation, and people have actually got the interest and compensation.
Okay.
I have discussed a few cases in the in the few slides after this, and we will get a clear idea as to how this has come up.
Karthik, there's one more question from Ms. Advocate Geetanjali Kadate, that whether you have any additional pointers when it comes to redevelopment of a cooperative society. As in anything else you would like to add with respect to, I mean, anything additional required to be done with respect to a cooperative society?
So cooperative society is actually a completely different, thing whereby the society also is the promoter.
Right.
Right. So the entire scenario changes, to be honest, because in those scenario, what happens is the society actually comes into the shoes of the builder, but however, the society is not majorly involved in terms of the construction. It usually hires a contractor, and the contractor finish up the work.
Yes.
So what happens there is usually it is very fair and square. It is very clear, very easy to construct a property if it is a self redevelopment. But the problem there is getting the flat buyers to understand, because a lot of time people either lose area, gain some area, somebody gets more area, somebody gets less area. Practical difficulties are too much. In terms of RERA, coming to the question of what other additional details that you need to understand that the project cost, because every society has to appoint a PMC, which is a project management consultant. A project management consultant usually proposes X thing, charges Y thing, and makes Z thing, which is not in agreement with the society.
Right.
A lot of time there are a lot of amendments which keep happening in terms of the costing, in terms of the proposed layout, in terms of the sanction layout, in terms of the FSI, in terms of additional details. So actually there is a lot of difficulty in terms of the changes. If it goes out clear, then there is nothing that you need to worry about other than being a builder or a society. But right. If the society takes the shoes of the promoter here, they have to be very, they have to really understand that if everything is in place, they need not worry. But if they know that the PMC could be acting funnier, it could become a challenge for them to put it out and put up there. If it is clear, then there is no issue. Then you usually become the part of a builder and nothing to worry in that case.
Right.
Right.
So I think this answers Mr. Shyam Talwadekkar's question as well. That is RERA applicable if the developer is the existing CHS itself, the one who's redeveloping its own bit. So I think that covers it well.
Yes. It completely applies to the societies as well. Society has to take up a registration.
Right.
So I would highlight that if your registration, if a society charges maintenance about 7,500, they have to take up GST registration. Now, why that is relevant to this case? This is relevant because society is then understood to be a revenue earning mechanism. Even if it is allocation cost, but it is still doing a certain service, and it is providing service to its own members. Even at RERA, the promoter is actually providing service to its own members as well as selling that particular thing. That is why there was service tax under erstwhile regime, and now there is GST about that maintenance part. And now RERA is also there because they form part of the developer, because they are providing a particular service to the existing flat buyers as well as to the new flat buyers. Because in a redevelopment project, usually there are new flat buyers which needs to be admitted. One worry under society redevelopment is that the project cost, usually for delay, it becomes a big problem, becomes a big challenge, because the society will then have to compensate their own flat, their own members.
Right.
That also forms another problem for the redevelopment project, which also needs to be taken care of. taking up the registration. Okay. I will move ahead with the benefits to the promoters under RERA. It actually imposes penalty on defaulters. Now, to be very to understand this, we need to understand that even though it is very consumer centric, even the flat buyers can be penalized. Now, how the flat buyers can be penalized? If the flat buyers don't pay their compensation to the builder on time, even they can be penalized. So it is not a state a law whereby only promoters are penalized for any difficulties. Even the flat, because promoters have also taken up loans. Promoters have also taken up finances. So promoters will also not bear that brunt. They will also put it out there to the RERA authorities, and the promoters can also appeal to the RERA authorities. Right. That is also one thing which needs to be understood here. The RERA authority for the real estate sector, so even the promoters can do that. Right. The provision for extension of project registration, this is very important. As I explained in the earlier slide, that they can take that extension, but because of uncontrollable circumstances, RERA authority, even the bench members at the RERA authority, they provide relaxation to the penalties or compensation which needs to be provided to the builder in genuine cases. But a builder can't cry foul saying that I could not obtain OC on time because of the regulatory issues or the BMC issues or the PMC issues. Those are not considered as genuine cases. There are tribunal case laws where they have clearly mentioned that those are not the problem of the builder. Those are the problem of that is not the problem of the flat owners. That is the problem of the builders, and the builders have to take up the timelines and understand all of this. Also, it gives a positive change for people to start investing because of complete transparency. Promoters can also approach authority, which I've already explained. RERA certificate is a certificate of authenticity. RERA certificate needs to be put up on the project. RERA certificate needs to be put up at the office of the premises of the builder. It also has in like there are a few builders, I would say here, that they are very good in terms of their transparency, even in the erstwhile laws, but they never got a chance to promote that or put it out there. Now, RERA certificate actually helps them in terms of putting out, because under RERA you have to put out the layout and the project plan on the project site. That's mandatory. You need to put out the layout. You need to put out the project details, the RERA certificate at the project site. Now, that is very important. That helps the flat buyers to gain confidence about the builder, and they can go for the flat buying. Coming to the next part, how it benefits the home buyers. It imposes penalties, which has been discussed. Utilizing the funds provided to builders for the specified project only. As I've already mentioned, 70% needs to be applied to the same project. Right to recover the amount, including interest, which has also been discussed, where I've explained that they can recover the amount, including interest. Liability to rectify structural defects in workmanship or otherwise for the 5 years after handing over of possession. Completion of building does not give the leeway to the builder to not get regulated under RERA. For the next 5 years, he is regulated under RERA. Also, to understand here, RERA is applicable to first sale. Okay. Second sale, subsequent sale gets covered under the Transfer of Property Act. If a flat owner sells the property, it gets covered under Transfer of Property Act. So, to give an example, if I have purchased a property from a builder, say Mr. X, if within 1 year I sell that property to Mr. Y, that will be covered under Transfer of Property Act. That person cannot go to the builder under RERA. However, the society is in place. Society can still approach. Society can approach to the RERA authority because the society is formed at the time of the building being constructed. Okay, if the society has formed at that particular, which is usually the case, right? So this is very important, which needs to be understood. The subsequent sale gets covered under the Transfer of Property Act, and Transfer of Property Act clearly governs that. Refund of amount and compensation if allottee wishes to withdraw from the project due to delay. This is very important. Whether the particular flat buyer wishes to stay invested in the project, whether he wishes to exit the project. If there is delay in possession, they can claim compensation. It is very clear here. Okay, it doesn't matter whether he wishes to stay invested or leave the project. Here, there was one more important ruling of Babita Agarwal, where it was mentioned that the person who was putting in funds to obtain that particular property was not a flat buyer. The person was the investor. Okay. Does RERA cover investors as well? The answer was in the affirmative. The tribunal gave the ruling. It applies to a person investing in a project, irrespective of the nature of the person. The person can be a flat buyer, the person can be an investor. Investors are also covered under RERA. Investors will also get protection under RERA. Investor can also claim compensation because even the investors are putting their money in the project. So we are clear here in terms of the investors.
Sahil, sorry, Karthik. So here by investor, you mean even a company, is it?
Anybody.
Like anybody, right?
Anybody who is investing in the project, whatever the nature of the entity would be, if they are owning a particular property, they can go under RERA, claim compensation. You can be an owner. You just need to be an owner. You need to invest your own fund.
Probably in that sense, you don't need to be a consumer. That's how we could look at it.
Right.
You don't need to be a consumer who would maybe
Right.
or want to someone who would fall within the definition of a home buyer looking to
Home
purchase
buyer,
for
right.
residential purpose.
No, it cannot be only individual because I would also like to say here, Kunal, that even a lot of people invest into properties by way of HUFs.
Right.
Even HUFs invest even property and assets in their name. They can also, the Karta can approach the RERA authority. Also to mention that actually I will cover that in the future slide about the consumer part of things. Title insurance becomes mandatory. That is another benefit of the home buyer. Standard format for agreement for sale. Hence, there is no scope of difficulty or arbitration. Here, I would like to say one thing. When a person in the agreement writes that the provisions of the act gets covered by the arbitrator, or the arbitrator decides, you can still get cover under RERA. RERA authority is the final authority in terms of real estate sector. If you approach the RERA authority, you can get the benefit of RERA in terms of any provisions which benefit you. Standardized definition of carpet area. Now, carpet area under RERA talks clearly about the usable area. Okay, this was earlier not defined. This was defined as per DC rules in other erstwhile sections. DC rules categorically had explained what the carpet area is and everything. But in RERA, it is very clear. It is a usable area, so that for a flat buyer, it becomes very easy for people to compare two properties. Because it does not include outside walls, it does not include balconies, it just talks about the usable area. Balconies are not considered to be usable area, whether attached to the property or not. Okay. Price correction due to increased transparency. There is a lot of price correction after RERA came into the picture. I am very sure everybody is aware of it, that the prices have actually gone down for the real estate sector. But I would like to highlight this one thing. Price corrections are always temporary. So if a person eventually wants to invest in a property, I would suggest do it now, for a simple reason that once the regulation is completely in place, it is still a settling law, it is still a new law for everybody. Once it starts settling down, the prices will definitely shoot up. And at that point in time, it will become very difficult for people to start investing in the property. So it is always advised to, go for the property. Of course, you have to look before you book, but you still have to understand the fact that you have to invest as soon as possible. You don't wait for that. Now, what are the functions and duties of promoters under RERA? The functions and duties are very clear. They need to register the construction projects, whether new or ongoing. Disclosures need to be made about the projects with the MahaRERA rules regulations. Quarterly update needs to be done on the website. MahaRERA registration number and website address needs to be mentioned on all advertisements, brochures, prospectus issued or published. This is very important. MahaRERA number is the number through which you will usually track. So even if you visit websites like 99 Acres or you visit websites like Magic Bricks, every property will have a MahaRERA number, which you can go on the MahaRERA website, put it down and read the details if you wish to. Project site should display all the sanction plans, layout plans, and all of those details. The project needs to be completed timely, otherwise there are penal consequences. Then the builder needs to assist in having the association of allottees, whereby if 51% of allottees have already booked apartments, and the builder needs to immediately start the process of forming a legal association of allottees. The conveyance deed needs to be in favor of the association of allottees within 3 months, as explained to you earlier. Removal of funds from the designated separate account only and only after obtaining the relevant certifications from the 3 professionals which have been already explained and decided. After this, I would like to concentrate on the penalties here. The penalties are huge in terms of the compensation, and the penalties would actually become a big revenue booster for the government as well, where for the non-registration of the project, I would also like to mention here that even the agents, the real estate agents, are mandatorily required to take up registration under RERA, because even their transparency is very important when it comes to the real estate sector. So even the real estate agents, if they have any mistakes, or if they are not registered, or if they don't give out a correct picture, even they are penalized. The provisions are explained as as there in the PPT. Non-registration of project or the agent with RERA, and there is a continuing default. The promoter is liable to a compensation of up to 10% of the project cost. Agent is also liable for INR 10,000 per day up to 5% of the project cost. False or misleading information while making application to RERA, the promoter is liable up to 5% of the project cost. Now, only a misleading or a false information which can actually affect the decision making of the home buyer has a penalty of 5%, but the non-registration has a bigger penalty of 10%. So it is very important that everybody registers if they fall under the threshold. Contraventions of the provision of the act. This is a very general provision whereby they have given out that the percentage of compensation which the promoter needs to pay is 5%, whether promoter or the agent. Non-compliance with the RERA order. Now, RERA order here means order given by the adjudicating authority, which is Real Estate Regulation Authority. They have appointed officers. The officers give out their orders, and if there is any non-compliance with the orders, the RERA authority can penalize them. The agent can also be penalized for up to 5% of the project cost, and there is also a daily penalty in terms of the allottees, because even the allottees, if there is a continuing default on the payment to the promoter or the flat owner, or the promoter or the constructor, even they need to have a penalty in place whereby they can actually catch hold of all the allottees, and they can penalize them in case of defaults by them as well. Non-compliance with the RERA appellate authority has the promoter needs to pay around 10% of the up to 10% of the project cost. It could be any percentage basis the prudence of the judge and understanding the situation and the circumstance in every case. For the agent as well, it's 10% of the project cost as well as the allottees. So this is a very important provision which needs to be understood, that penalties are huge, compliance is mandatory. Any non-compliance either with the sections or with the authorities, with the orders, has huge complications. So you have to be very careful when you take up the registration, and if you feel that you can be non-compliant and get away with it. Judicial hierarchy under RERA and its alternative mechanism. Now, when RERA came into the picture, there was ideally a lot of confusion in terms of which authority needs to be approached. Now, a lot of people erstwhile would always approach the consumer forums. Okay. Now, why consumer forum? Because again, it would classify as a product. It was basically a product whereby they need to have the correct title to the goods. They need to have the correct product. They can't be misled. There could not be a situation where there was a false information about the project. So everybody used to approach the consumer forums, and for any difficulties with regards to the project, they would either approach the courts. The civil court would have huge number of cases where they had to deal with that. The government identified it. The government said that we are going to have an authority in place whereby the process would be anybody who has an issue, okay, on payment of 5,000 rupees, okay, they can approach the adjudicating authority online. There is an online application. There is an online process of filing a complaint on the RERA website where you can file your complaint. Once you have filed your complaint, the adjudicating authority will take up that matter. They will either call you or there would be a conference call, whichever way. Currently with the COVID scenario, things have actually changed drastically, but usually they would either call up and they would have a meeting in place and they would understand, determine the liabilities and pass their orders. Against this adjudicating authority, which is the RERA authority, you can approach the RERA tribunal. At the RERA tribunal, there are two members who are sitting, usually one with the knowledge of justice, which is actually a high court or a Supreme Court lawyer with enough years of experience, and the other would be a technical person of the industry who would have a good amount of idea, and they would take up the case. They would understand, they would listen up the case, and they would give their order. Against the order of the RERA authority, you can directly approach the High Court and then the Supreme Court. This was the hierarchy which is followed under RERA. Under consumer forum, it was fairly simple. You have district, you have national, you have central, and then you immediately would approach the Supreme Court. That's how usually the forum would lie. Now, a lot of people, when RERA had come into the picture, they were quite confused as to what would debar them from going to court after the RERA authority, okay, and if there are any existing or pending cases with either the arbitrator or with the civil court or with the consumer forum, how can they go about this whole thing? Because even consumer forum has a lot of products, so a lot of people would approach the consumer forum for various issues. So there was a lot of pendency of cases even with the consumer forums. To answer that question, the act was very clear. The act is not repealing any existing provisions. Okay. What the act simply stated is that if you're at a particular level and if you're already there, if you wish to withdraw your application and come under RERA, you can do so. Whether you're under the consumer forum, whether you're under a civil court, you can withdraw the application because an authority has now been formed, which is categorically addressing the needs of the industry. You can definitely withdraw yourself from there and approach the RERA authority. And you can take up that that case there. Here, you have to also understand and appreciate the fact that a lot of people, where they had filed cases, they would actually want to do that. Now, why? Because of the pendency of the cases, because of the difficulties that they faced or the number of years they had to wait. RERA authority was fairly new. RERA Act was also fairly new, but it gave a lot of protection. So people then eventually started following up. And now if you go on the website and if you just search the cases, there are a lot of cases which have been filed, which have been addressed and which have been disposed of. That's how it is functioning. So you have to understand that people actually are taking up this recourse. Okay. Judicial hierarchy is, as I've explained, that you can file a complaint to the RERA authority, which is the adjudicating officer who will take up your case and do it. Against that order, you can approach the RERA tribunal, the promoter as well as the flat owner, whichever wish to go and approach for any sort of difficulty, they can do that and they can get their redressal out there. Then they can go to the High Court and then they go to the Supreme Court. This is the judicial hierarchy right now. Further, judicial hierarchy in terms of alternative mechanism is to go and still approach the consumer court in case a person who doesn't wish to approach the consumer forum or the Supreme Court. They can, who don't wish to go with the RERA tribunal, they can take up the case to the consumer forum and they can still go ahead with that. There is no bar in going to the consumer forum, even if the RERA tribunal is in place. Consumer forums cannot dispose of the application stating that this doesn't cover here, you go to the tribunal. That is not the case. People can still approach the consumer forum because it is, again, as I have explained, forming part of a product which you're buying. Also, you have to understand that people were confused, about the level of tribunal, like how there is a motor vehicle tribunal. There are these tribunals which have quasi-judicial authorities, because quasi-judicial, after that they have to directly go to the High Court. They again can't go to the civil courts. They can't go to the district court or the magistrate court. They have to directly approach the High Court and the Supreme Court. This, I understand, needs to be very clear. Only then this will help us to understand as to how the appeals or the complaints are filed, right? Because you will know which authorities to approach now after this understanding. Now, comparisons of the regulations at a glance. Under MOFA, okay, the objective was to
just one point. It's already 6 o'clock, so should we extend the session by another 15-20 minutes? Would that be fine?
Yeah. I think I'm done. I'm almost done. I can get done in the next 10 minutes. I think
we'll take up a few questions, so we'll extend the session by 15 minutes.
Okay. Fine. So comparisons of the regulations, and I'm going to brush through this quickly. The objective was to regulate the promotion of the construction, sale and management and transfer of flats on ownership basis. However, here is the promotion of the real estate sector and ensure of sale of plot, apartment or building, or as the case may be, or any sale of real estate project. It basically covers the entire real estate sector, the industry, as well as it talks about establishing an appellate tribunal to hear appeals and dispose of the matters. MOFA was in 1963, then housing development came in and then RERA came in. But the comparison of MOFA and RERA is for a clear understanding that the fact that MOFA was there for quite a while in the industry. So it was very important for me to give a comparison of these two. Section 7.2 of the MOFA covers the structural defects in any building. 14.3 covers structural defects along with defect in workmanship, quality or provision of services or any other obligations of the promoter as per the agreement for sale. We have to understand that under MOFA, there was nothing mentioned about the agreement for sale or anything that was promised by the builder, but here it is very clear that anything that was promised by the builder, and if there is any defect, they can approach the authority. There was no registration requirement under MOFA. There is a registration mandatory required. Carpet area was defined differently under MOFA. Carpet area under RERA was very clearly defined so that there is an easy comparison. What it includes and what it excludes. It excludes categorically the area covered by the external walls, areas under service shafts, exclusive balcony or veranda area, and exclusive open terrace area, but includes the area covered by the internal partition walls of the apartment. Coming to the case assessment, now this was a very landmark case whereby
Just before we, considering that you've discussed the content with respect to RERA, on ground, has there been a change with respect to buyers' rights as well? You did say that with respect to the builders, yes, there has been a sea change and there has been a lot of transparency. So are there, even with respect to the buyers, would there be a positive change that is seen in terms of the benefits available to them?
Yes, actually, to answer you in the affirmative, I just want to put out this one thing. The question is that a lot of buyers are really not aware of their rights.
Okay.
Because they're not very technically sound enough, because RERA has just come in the year 2017 and a lot of litigations, a lot of queries, a lot of constitutional validities were there, and a lot of people were not quite aware as to how can they approach things. Unless and until they approach a lawyer and they understand exactly what their rights are, they will not understand this.
Right.
So, to be very honest with you, in terms of the industry, the buying has been really sluggish right now. But as and when people become more aware of the rules and regulations and what rights do they hold and what obligations do the builders have, I think the demand would eventually increase, is what I feel. Right. And with COVID also, I would like to mention here, people have really started realizing that it is really important for all of them to have owned property in place.
Right.
So because of that also, a lot of people have now started to take up that thing. Okay, now we want to buy a property. Practically, yes, because of this, people will start. But theoretically, I feel people really need to understand their rights so that the buying happens faster.
Right. Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Going ahead with the case assessment, there was a landmark judgment in the case of Avinash Saraf and Neha Duggal Saraf versus Runwal, where the flat buyers had paid 97%, mind you, 97% of the total consideration of the flat, and the date of possession of the flat was agreed at a particular date, say August 2016, as per agreement of sale, executed in November 14. However, the builders could not provide the possession in time, and the complainant demanded a consideration with interest at 21%. The case that I was mentioning. Whether RERA will have jurisdiction. Now, the point of contention before the authority was whether RERA will have jurisdiction over the agreement entered before enactment, and whether the complainant was entitled to get back the money amount paid to respondent with interest and compensation. The order came something like this: as the case of action survived even after the date of introduction of RERA, as if the possession was not given. There was a difficulty. The difficulty was faced by the flat owner after the introduction of RERA. The case of action survived. RERA gets jurisdiction over it, requiring that they need to kind of RERA gets jurisdiction over all such cases, and it requires registration under Section 3 of the RERA. Considering the above, RERA is assumed to be retroactive. Rather than retrospective, they said it becomes retroactive in this case. Section 18 of RERA imposes liability on the promoter to return the amount received by it in respect of the apartment if they fail to give the possession. In light of the above section, the builder was asked to compensate the particular amount to the flat buyers along with interest. Because the allottees cannot be made to pay interest to banks for loans availed by them. Because of the mistake of the builder, the flat owner are not supposed to suffer, and therefore the builder was asked to compensate the amount along with interest. One more important case which came in the year of 2019. Now, this is a very big, I would say this is a very important case law, because it really clarified a few questions of law for everyone. I'm not going into the detail because the case is actually very big, but I would like to highlight the pointers here. The pointers are very clear. The RERA tribunal at Maharashtra had clarified certain questions of law which are enumerated below for the ease of reference. Jurisdiction of the authority is not lost only because of the receipt of OC or on completion of the particular project or the possession is offered. Because as I've explained you, the 5-year clause is there. It does not go away with that. Provision of RERA are applicable to the agreement for sale, though they have been entered prior to the project, which answers a few questions on the chat box, where it has come out by way of this particular tribunal judgment. The Arbitration and Conciliation Act and the arbitration clause in the agreement cannot be delegated as specific act. Section 18 of the Act constitutes a special forum provided by RERA as the jurisdiction lies with the authority. Yeah. The word shall under Section 18 indicates that this provision is mandatory and is the absolute right of the allottee to recover interest for delay in obtaining possession. Lastly, builder is liable to pay interest under Section 80, even though the date of completion has been revised. Why? Because it was unnecessary hardship to the flat buyer. With this understanding, I hope everyone has a fair amount of idea as to the RERA Act, because as an introduction, I really wanted everybody to understand the fact that RERA as a case, as an act, was simply there to regulate the industry at first. The thing was, the penalties were too high, the difficulties were there. It was very cumbersome for flat buyers to make decision making because they would not understand where to go if they had any difficulties, and the long list of litigation which was there, the pending cases in the court, it was very difficult for people to get a hold of the product. With this understanding, with this act, it was very fairly and it was very clear for the flat buyers to understand that they now can very easily, without difficulty and with clear set of ideas about the project and the promoter, they can invest in any particular property without a worry in their head. Thank you, and I hope I was able to guide you through it. And if there is any questions, please, Kunal, you can address it if there is anything that you wish to.
Yes, so Karthik, we have a thank you for that wonderful session, and there's a 1-2 questions in the chat box, so we'll just take them up.
Sure.
First one is from Gitanjali Kalate. What is the best alternative if a society is going for redevelopment by appointing a contractor, whether to build, construct, and then it's written to build, construct, and hand over construction for an amount?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, I didn't get it. So, Gitanjali,
yeah. Now there is a 10,000 square feet ka society, and they are willing to go into redevelopment.
Okay.
So now for redevelopment, what we are planning to do is we are planning to bring in a person who would build, construct for a fees, of course, per square foot or whatever, that person who is going to construct, and hand over the flats to us and go. So now in this scenario of redevelopment, I wanted to know the things or the pointers or the or what do we say, that what should we do for RERA, or what are the things that we need to how to go about that?
Okay. Just to give you a brief out here, the first redevelopment project in the state of Maharashtra happened in Ghatkopar. Okay. There, what the flat buyers and everybody did was they actually see, usually in society redevelopment cases, you usually hire not a contractor, but first you hire a project management consultant. Because what happens now, society, every member of the society has a lot of difficulty in having a clear understanding as to what are their benefits, what are their rights, what are their obligations, how much money is required, what if additional money is required, how will they go about, which authorities will they approach. So there are plethora of questions which a society usually has, because as a layman, they would not understand all these things. So usually every society out here, they appoint a project management consultant. They give them a fair amount of idea as to how this whole project will be done, how they will construct it, how they are going to go about this whole thing. And eventually they will understand that what are the rights of the society. They have to just pump in the funds. They have to get it from the society members. They have to pump it, and then they have to go about with this whole detail. In case if you say that I myself wish to go as a society and I want to do it, it is actually a very difficult process, to be honest with you, because as you know how the authorities recently, like even before COVID, how they used to function, you will not understand the process. Okay. In terms of RERA, I would say it's fairly the deal as it is for any promoter. In this case, the society is the promoter. They have to have certain balances and checks, and those balances and checks could be as to architect is proposing.
Just a correction. Yahan pe the land is of society. The money would be pumped in by some other person, and the building will be constructed by some other person.
Okay. So society does not have conveyance of the property. It's not in the society's name.
They do. But see, now they want to just reconstruct it, redevelop it. So there is some other person who's going to bring in the money. The land is being brought in by the society members, and both of them are going to bring in another person.
Okay. So it's a joint development agreement.
Yes,
right.
It is a joint
development. In that scenario, again, see, then all three of them form part of the promoter. Then when you take up the registration under RERA, all three of them will become the promoter, and all the details which they will either obtain from the architect or the project management consultant, all of that needs to be updated on the website. As far as your balances and checks as to what all details you need to take care of, that has a lot of it's a very subjective answer, to be honest, because considering if there is any encumbrances, any difficulties, the number of parking, because now what has happened is every flat owner needs to have 2 parkings in place. All those details are in place. Here in Bombay, every flat owner now who wishes to buy an apartment, they need to have 2 parkings, and all of that is there. So it's very subjective as to how I could answer this for you. But all I can say is that if you want to do something like this, I would say you appoint a PMC, or you go to the architect and first understanding how the project is going to be constructed, and then take a call as to what all details you need to keep in mind before you start the project.
Yeah, thank you. Any specific case law or judgment on these grounds that any dispute has arisen and the courts have decided onto it? If you have any idea,
Regarding
redevelopment or any issue that comes up.
I got to check for you that, because there are actually a lot of cases which are there, but exactly what case could suit you, I need to check on that and get back to you. If they see right now, what I've understood from you is that there is no dispute. You're just going out for a development of the property and the project.
Yeah, but generally reading case laws where already something has been decided gives you a fair idea of what issues could arise, in future.
No, I get your point. That's a valid point, but I currently don't have it at the back of my head. But if I something, definitely I can pass it on.
Yeah, and secondly, recently Supreme Court has stated that even if the flat or the rights of assignment goes from one buyer to another, as you said about Transfer of Property Act would be applicable, but the Supreme Court has recently said that even if the right of assignments have gone to the second person, they will step. This was already a settled concept that they would step into the shoe of the original buyer, so they can as well proceed under RERA. So
I will answer for you that. See, usually what happens, Gitanjali, that when you say that the agreement is covered under RERA, when you make the covenants under the agreement, you usually write that this particular agreement gets covered under the provisions of RERA. But actually, if there is any difficulty for any compensation, you can't approach the builder. If there is any problem which you have not received from the flat, if you are pumping in the funds, or if you are selling the property, you can't approach the RERA tribunal that this person has not paid me the funds. What I was trying to highlight there was that any subsequent agreements ideally get covered under this provision, because for other provisions they can't approach RERA. So the agreement gets formed under Transfer of Property Act, the covenants are of the Transfer of Property Act. For structural defects and all of that, which these two parties can't do anything about, in that scenarios, and if you actually read up these case laws, you will get it that for any building related concerns, they can probably approach the builder. But internally, if there is anything, they can't approach the builder. That has to be covered under the Transfer of Property Act.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
So Karthik, we have one last question, and this was again with respect to cooperative housing society. That does it mean that second sale buyer is at the mercy? So this was the scenario where you had spoken that once the flat has been purchased and sold to another person, then it is the cooperative housing society which is to get step into the shoes of the builder. So here the question is, does it mean that the second sale buyer is at the mercy of the cooperative housing society to get his grievances addressed through it? So
which we just discussed right now, the Supreme Court ruling and everything, which is there in place. It's a settled position. For any defects and all of that, you can still approach. But I would like to mention one thing here, that when there is a subsequent sale, okay, you have to be very careful, because you will anyway understand the fact that if there is any difficulties happening, because usually a person of correct mind, and they will obviously try and figure out if there is any difficulties from the existing flat owners, from not the person, from the person. They will always understand that before they go in for a buying of a particular property. But of course, if there is any situation as such where they have gone with a bona fide reasoning and they have bought the property and there is a difficulty, which we just discussed, I think that answers that question for that.
If I can intervene, as I understand, I think you have answered that in the previous question. As I understand, if there are any technical defects as far as the construction, etc., are concerned, you can still go under RERA. But if there are any commercial grievances in terms of the agreement by the second buyer, then in that case, you cannot. That's what you answered. You have to go under the Transfer of Properties Act. Am I right?
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think Karthik, thank you. Answered all our questions. And with that, we'll come to the end of our session. I would actually did mention this at the beginning. So if there are any new participants who would like to be part of our study circle WhatsApp group, you may kindly provide your phone number in the chat box and we'll add you to our WhatsApp group. And Karthik, if you do come across any decisions with respect to the disputes that may arise under RERA, then you may let us know. We'll pass it on in our WhatsApp group.
Sure.
And I would just like to mention here that Karthik also comes from a family. I mean, his family is involved in the real estate business. So in this, and considering the fact that he's a CA, I think he was in the best position to probably provide a very practical perspective of how RERA would work. And I think considering that RERA is such a new subject, probably we don't have much case law on it. And at this point of time, an introduction to that subject is what was necessary. And I think that Karthik has done that beautifully. So thank you, Karthik, for that.
Thank you, everyone.
And I would also request everyone to kindly put in their feedback in the chat box. And thank you, Karthik, if you would like to say anything. Yeah.
No, I'm very grateful to Advocate Kunal and Advocate Vaishali Bhagwat to give me this opportunity to kind of present this subject. And I'm very happy to share my thoughts over it. And I would also like to say that in case in the future, if anybody has any sort of difficulties in any understanding, I'm just a call away. My number's already there on the PPT. I think they all can access it on your website.
Yes.
It will be my honor to guide you or assist you or help you in any way possible to address your queries and concerns. So thank you so much. Thank you again for this opportunity, and I'm very grateful to everybody.
Thank you, Karthik. So with that, we'll end the session. 1 minute, I'll just stop the recording.